Hey everyone, today we'll be focusing on our C++ basic course, and today we will be focusing on the following lesson, and without any further hesitation, let's get started. Hey everyone, today we'll be doing our C++ basics tutorial, and today we're going to be focusing on fundamental data types, as well as creating functions and understanding the nature behind it. And basically what we'll be going through is that we will be going through each of the fundamental data types, as well as constructing various functions to be able to output everything inside of our main function. And if you're just starting off, depending on which IDE environment you're using, we'll just create a new project over here. So if you're on a Mac, you go File, Project, then you press the command line tool, press Next, and then you can name it whatever, like literally. It doesn't matter, but fundamental data types. I will also put this in the description as well, so your folks can actually look back and learn from it and everything else. But the project's already been made. So I'm just going to close this out. And what we'll be doing is that I'm just going to go over each of the following terms, what they mean, and how we're going to build them all out. So overall, these are the fundamental data types that we have. I have an acronym that's called DIXB. Something funny to be able to actually memorize. It's DIXB. Okay, anyway, but our fundamental data types go based on the following. So double, which is considered a floating number used for accurate representation, and typically in our example, for our function we're going to create, we'll be using pi and radius, but that'll be later on. Integers, which are considered whole numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And they have 4 bytes in memory as well. I also listed memory at the same time for each of the following data types. Character, which represents a single character, which is like a single part, technically that can be added up into various strings, which are basically a sequence of characters as well, but a character is like a single version of A, single version of B. It can also be various symbols as well, like a $sign or an asterisk at the same time. And there are other different components such as sign and unsigned, but we won't be going over those specifically. Instead, I'll be doing that in a sub video, but just to give an overview between the different data types and how various functions are made, because this chunk in particular just needs to be covered for just the basics behind here. Then we have strings, which are considered a sequence of characters, such as, for instance, a name like Michael. And the overhead, which is basically the starting amount of memory that a string typically has, is going to be 24 bytes, but then it's also subject to the size of the string, because the name can go on and on, like Michael Jackson, Fernando, etc. That data type will expand dynamically depending on the size of the string as well. And then we also have booleans as well, which return true or false, and you can put this in a true or false game, and they are the they have the least amount of size in terms of memory, typically at 1 byte, and all the following can be used as a function, which means they need to return something at the very end, much like in the case of our main function that we have over here. In fact, I'll even get rid of this part because we don't need this as well. And then different functions that can also make sense. Also, a thing I do want to point out, and I'm sorry if this may be a trivial error, but people call these terms count and sin, as I've been using them, because textbooks and everything else. However, they're called cout and cin for full clarification based on their fundamental basis. Just want to clarify in that aspect. And finally, in terms of the function, another version is called void, where basically they can be used with as many different data types inside of a function. They can carry integers, strings, characters as well, depending on what you want to create. And they don't need to return anything. They're just basically designed to either make efficient print statements or call upon different functions as well, like in the case of recursion, which we'll learn about that later in our basics course to go through. So before we get started, what I will be doing is that we will actually be calling upon this library as well. I'm going to include string, which is a library in which is part of the STL library to be able to call upon various string functions accordingly. And we will also be calling upon using namespace standard over here, so that way we don't need to repeat this part excessively over and over again. And we are going to be creating our functions in here, are considered helper functions, because they're not part of the main function that is right over here, which is an integer, as you can see over here, and has a base case of return 0. So first one we're going to be doing is that we will be doing a double function, where, as we know, it's going to be indicated as double, saying, hey, this is what double of what we have. We'll have calculated circle area, and we are just going to be doing the area of a circle by having a component called double radius, which is going to be inside of our parameters. And then I'm going to have this constant that I'm going to call, we are going to first initialize. To create functions, we first initialize values, and then we figure out what we return. So when we initialize values and we are calculating the radius, what we'll be doing is that we'll be doing constant double pi equals 3.1416254 if you want to get fancy or whatnot. And so constant means is that the value that we declared is supposed to stay there. It's not supposed to change. That way we know exactly that we have already declared this following value at this constant state, hence why we've already stated it as constant as well. And be sure as well to put in your statement terminators, which are semicolons, so that way the code can continue as well. And notice this error that we have. We notice that a non-void function does not return a value, which means, given the fact that this function is not void, we need to return a value. And what is it going to be? What we'll be doing is that we are going to be returning pi times radius up here times radius as well. And then what I'll be doing is that I am going to be going inside of our main function this time, and then we will be using a double. And what I'll be doing is that I'm going to first initialize, because typically in functions we always initialize and then we return a value. So double radius cal enter the radius of the circle, otherwise known as cout. And then sin or cin, we're gonna put in our radius that we declared inside of our main function. Now wait a minute, why is it that we are calling upon, why are we declaring this radius and not this one? Well, what we are doing is that we are actually creating an initialized value inside of our function, so then eventually we'll be able to use this value right here to then put it inside of the parameter. We can also name it a different one because it's just solely focusing on the double value that we have created. So I can say radius main right over here in camel case because C++ is sensitive, and then I'm going to declare another value called area. Then I'm going to do this thing called calling upon a function inside of another function. So radius main. Notice how the IDE is calling upon radius main to put inside for the double of radius, which we declared inside of a parameter as well. And then, so this will be the calculated area. That is what we do. And what we'll be doing is that we'll be outputting the area of the circle with radius. We can just do radius main over here, and I'm gonna put down is. Make sure you have your spaces so that way it comes out nice. Then we're gonna have area as we have declared. And then finally, I'm gonna put these slash ends over here so we can move on into the next phase, and that way our output will actually look cleaner. Now, I'm going to open up this terminal, and then I'm gonna run this. Build succeeded, that's good. Enter the radius of the circle. So a radius that I would typically put in, so I'm going to put in 12.5 in that case, because it's a double. Doubles can give accurate numbers for what we need, and what's going to happen is that it's going to actually calculate the area of a given circle with the value we have already made. So, ta-da, the area of the circle with the radius 12.5 is 490.879, and program has ran successfully because program ended with execode 0 in that case. And so now let's go over our next part. Hey everyone, thank you very much for taking time to watch this video. If you found this video helpful, be sure to feel free and please like and subscribe. And if you have any other questions as well, feel free to put it in the comments section. And as always, take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.